I am by Jane Uyomokubo, and I'll be talking on the problems and solution of Nigerian economy. But before then, Nigeria, right from the colonial administration, Nigeria depended on agriculture for survival. Then during the colonial era, it was boosted, and there was issue of explosion of cash crops. Then after the colonial era, there is issue of industrialization, which brought about crude oil. Okay, let me start from the introduction. Nigeria is classified as a developing country. In terms of income, industrialization, Nigeria cannot be compared to America. So America is a developed country, while Nigeria is a developing country. Nigeria is the largest developing country so far in Africa with the highest GDP. And this GDP, this is the highest production of goods and services in a country within a period of time, usually 1 year. There is also fluctuation of goods and services within Nigeria. Like I said initially, before the colonial era, it was agriculture. Then during the colonial era, before the colonial era, the agriculture was mainly purposely on feeding. People normally cultivate crops for them to feed in their various houses. Then during the colonial era, there is issue of export of cash crops, things like the cocoa, the palms and other things. Then this our century now, there is issue of industrialization, which has to do with the crude oil, converting it into fuel, that is petroleum, which are being exported to other countries. But based on the economy of Nigeria, people are living differently. Some are living in a lavish life, while others are living in a very poor environment, which is not supposed to be. With the kind of natural resources Nigeria are having, at least people should be living equally, at least, since Nigeria depend on that crude oil. But one way or the other, the difference is too much, which is affecting the economy of Nigeria, and there will be need to make adjustment. Let me start by the number one, corruption. Number one is corruption. This is one of the first challenges that Nigeria face in the economy. Let's take for instance now, like my own case, I went to school, and maybe after I graduated, I would like to work with the government, but I don't have anybody in the government that will help me out. It is either I will have to look for money to pay in order to be employed, or I will have to go out there and look for somebody in the name of godfather or godparent. If I don't have godfather or godparent, I know if I don't have any money for backup, that is how I will remain. I will not be employed in the government, and that has been my dream, to work with the government. And the second problem is dependency on oil. Nigeria automatically depends on this crude oil. If today the crude oil in Nigeria will finish, definitely Nigeria is in trouble. Instead of Nigeria to continue right from the beginning, before the colonial era, that Nigeria started agriculture. But when the issue of crude oil came, the colonial masters came, opened the eyes of Nigeria with the issue of exports. Nigeria abandoned agriculture and focused more on this crude oil. Okay, since Nigeria export crude oil outside the country, most of these countries that normally buy the crude oil from Nigeria, their currencies affect the Nigerian currency, which each time those crude oil are being exported, they buy it using their own currency. And their own currency is stronger than Nigerian currency. For example, we have the dollars and the pounds. If they should buy our own crude oil with their own money, which means the quantity of crude oil exported will be reduced, because their own currency is stronger than our own currency. at the end of the day, the fuel that will be brought back to Nigeria is just very little, which will not be enough for the main reason why the crude oil was exported. Okay. And the next thing is problem of infrastructure. Honestly, the issue of road, the issue of schools, there are many rural areas that are suffering from that. Issue of hospitals, there will be the walls, but there are not materials in the hospital to be used. Many people are complaining of that. There are schools, but you find out that there are only teachers. What happened? This issue of infrastructure is also affecting Nigeria very badly, and issue of roads. You find out that there are people living from far distance. For them to come to town is a problem. They have certain time or certain period. When it is rainy season, they cannot come to town. Some of them are into business. Some of them leave villages to come to the cities for school. But there are certain time that are being kept for that issue. Once that time passes, which means till they wait till another time before they will start coming. Why? Because of road. There are poor roads. Poor roads. People are suffering because of that. Then, issue of education. Nigeria focus more. They believe that without education, there's nothing you can do. Which I believe that is not the proper thing. It is affecting Nigeria very badly. You find out that some people have the knowledge, like issue of technology. I've seen a lot of children creating many things, art and craft, sciences. But when you find out that their background is very poor, most of them do not go to school. But they have that knowledge, they invent a lot of things. But why? They cannot go further. Number one, they don't have anybody to sponsor them. And secondly, even if they went to school, there are rich people that will hijack the whole thing. Their children will be replaced, knowing fully that their children don't have the experience that those poor children have. I'm trying to tell us that education is not the only key. There are other ways which we can tackle the issue in this economy. Then exportation and importation. Nigeria also depend on this. The proper thing for an economy like Nigeria is they should export more goods than import more goods. That issue of import, like I said earlier on, the currency of those foreign countries which Nigeria export or import affect the currency. Okay, if there is changes in dollars, the price of goods in Nigeria will definitely change. If dollar increases, then the price of goods and services in Nigeria will increase. If dollar decreases, then definitely the prices of goods and services in Nigeria will adjust. One of the most reasons is the issue of importation. Nigeria imports goods and services more than that they export. Okay, imagine Nigeria are still into this agriculture like I mentioned earlier on. They export cocoa, they export cotton, export crude oil. And then those foreign countries has to buy based on the price we give them. But Nigeria instead we import. Once we go out to import, any price they give us, because we are deeply in need of it, we will have to buy it at that same price. Okay, imagine Nigeria imports apple. Nigeria still import palm oil. When we still have the means, when we talk about the sector of Nigerian economy, we have the primary sector, we have the secondary sector. The primary sector has to do with the production, with the agriculture. We plant, we harvest it. The secondary sector has to do with converting them into finished goods. That is where the industry comes from. But instead, we choose to go outside, buy it from foreign countries, which control the currency of Nigeria, and which is very bad. Nigeria are suffering a lot. They are going through a lot because of the issue of dollars. Now, Nigeria survived only based on the dropping or the increasement of dollars, then improvement of governance. The Nigerian governance has to be stable. It has to be stable. Once it is not stable, a lot of changes also affect the economy. I'm being voted. I come with my own policy. Within a short period of time, I leave. Another person comes in. He or she will definitely come with his or her own policy. within a short period of time, another person leave, which affect the economy at large entirely. Okay, before my own issue start affecting, I leave, which I started implementing. Another person come in again, start implementing his or her own, and my own idea and that person idea is not the same thing. Definitely, Nigeria has to start from the grassroots, which is not supposed. Other countries are developing, while Nigeria is still struggling appointing leaders in order to continue. Okay, recently, the Minister of Defense, within a short period of time, we're having the second Minister of Defense. Just, okay, let's say within a year, we're having the second Minister of Defense, which is not supposed. Okay, that one started work and left. This one have to continue from where that one stopped. This one also has its own issue, different from that one. So you see, and maybe that one has its own budget differently, which maybe some of the things were bought. Okay, this one come, he will not like to work with the previous person's budget. He also have his own budget, which will be implemented. Nigeria did not budget for that one. Nigeria has to remove money, which sometimes push Nigeria to go and borrow from other countries. If Nigeria borrow from other countries, there are issue of interest which will be increased on each and every money that Nigeria will go and borrow. Then the evidence based on policy by using data. We have something we call data collection. We have primary and we have secondary data. This primary data, we have to go within the community, talk to the people one-on-one, ask them about the problem they are facing, the challenges they are facing. Each community has their own. Each society has their own. Each state has their own. What are those problems you face within your community, within your societies? Each and every one of them will speak out. We can use it by having an interview with them, having a discussion with them. And the secondary data, already the data are already in existence. Maybe we can go through the magazines and we can see them. We can go through the internet, they are already there, which will be downloaded. We can just go through it, just make some research, just join them together and make use of it. But at least in my own shoes, I would prefer using the primary data you hear directly from the source. Then in conclusion, the implementation of policy should be done within the country, which will help in some of the policy making. As a leader now, I'm being elected and I'm leaving. The policy I make, any leader that will come after me, he or she has to continue from where I stop in order to reduce the budget. Okay, most of the time now, Nigeria into budget deficit instead of the surplus. Most of the times, the total amount of money we have and the budget normally, the total amount in the budget, our money normally don't reach the level of the budget. We have only low budget, as in, let's say for instance now, our budget is 10 million naira, and you find out that Nigeria is having maybe just 5 million at hand. At the end of the day, Nigeria has to borrow money in order to top up to reach the minimum of what they intend to implement in the country. Then the issue of power supply. Okay, let me say the issue of power supply and issue of corruption, which led to the issue of power supply and corruption and the issue of fundamental human rights and the national orientation towards building a truly resilient, competitive, and equitable economy for future prosperity. Nigeria has to join hands to work on the issue of corruption um, by fixing fundamental issues like power supply and corruption. Like some few months ago, or let me say last year, there was issue of this power grid, which affect. I could remember the first one lasted for like a week, then the others lasted for just few days. Okay, this issue of power grid, it affects a lot of businesses. It affects a lot of things in the country. But at least if issue like this are being tackled, within the country, like issue of business, some people do business online. Some people some people do businesses online. With this issue of power grid, maybe the issue of phone that are down, issue of system that are down, which gave people problem, and their issue of failure of transaction due to the power grid.
Then to conclude,
And lastly, there should be at least competition within the sector of the Nigerian economy. It is not good for Nigeria to depend only on the crude oil. At least there should be mixed economy. Nigeria should also join with the issue of agriculture and the issue of service. Thank you.